Hey guys, next speaker is Athresh from Brilio. Introduce himself.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. I know it was a long session after the lunch, and after a game to again capture the attention of the audience and to start again is difficult, but I'll give it a try. So we have been discussing about distributed agile, and my friend John took us through the most important factor in distributed agile: culture. The people makes the teams, and that is what makes success. So here I'm taking the story a little further, looking at a few other aspects which also help as Indian IT teams or Indian IT service organizations. Some other factors that also help us in becoming successful distributed teams. So I work with Brilio. So Brilio is a new know-how company. We call ourselves Born Digital Being Agile. So we have a lot of focus on Agile, and we are 2,000 plus people, growing fast, and we have offices in the US, UK, Europe, and India. So it is in the ratio of 60% in India, 30% in UK, Europe, and the rest in the US. So that's about Brilio. So distribute. My pitch here is that Scrum or no Scrum, distributed development is not new for our Indian IT services company. So even as back as 80s or 90s, so we had the production offshoring happening in India. A lot of organizations for car manufacturing, electronic component manufacturing. A lot of offshoring did happen in India, and we were working with multiple teams and doing that. And later 1990s and all that, low-end IT services, and we all remember, right? The boom which happened was mainly the Y2K. A lot of work into India. We started working with multiple teams and helping many organizations address that Y2K problem. So my pitch is that it is not new for us. So what we have now come to is high-end services like IT-enabled services, BPO, product development, all of such kind of work also is being offshored. So now we are working with multiple cultures, multiple teams, multiple time zones. So how do we address all that? So basically, while all this offshoring was happening in India, we developed a global delivery model, which was the traditional way of working, where it was more command control, where you had at the client or the client side, we used to have a client manager, a big team. Most of the high-end work like architecture and analysis, design used to happen that side, and only basically development, testing kind of work used to come over to the offshore teams, right? So that's how it was. But now with the advent of the agile practices, 2000, the Agile Manifesto and all that, so we see that we are adapting to the agile world, and at the same time when you look at this is from the version 1 survey, the latest version 1 survey. So about 76% of the respondents in the 2000, this survey report was released in 2014, but the survey happened in 2013, end of 2013, and 3,000 organizations participated in that survey, which was conducted by version 1. What came out was that in the year 2012, about 35% of respondents have come back that they are using distributed agile for their development. But in 2013, it has almost doubled. So what does that show? That shows distributed teams, multiple geographies, multiple locations, and that kind of work has become a reality. So we have to now move towards that. And how do we adapt ourselves? So now this has become more like the common story we have heard about from our childhood. This comes from Jain origins, and so basically, I don't remember who, but so Mahavir or someone told this story about six. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The origin is from Jain and Buddhism. Then many of the Vedanta story. Then there is a poem, even an European poet has taken this theme and has written a poem. That's what I've just shown there. The poet's name is John Godfrey. So this is widely popular. So what happens here? So 6 blind men and elephant. Anybody? What does this theme tell about? Or this story talk about? Yeah, so we saw a live example a few minutes back, right, in our exercise. So what happens is, so when I mean, here you have 6 blind people trying to feel the elephant and, feel the elephant and understand what it is and then translate it. So what would happen if you are looking at the person who is holding the trunk would feel it like it is more like a snake. The one who is touching the tusk would just, based on his experience, okay, subjective experience. So when each one takes his subjective experience, whatever he understands from his reference point, and finally if that is put together, this is what we get. See, so that's how when distributed teams are working, and if each of the team works independently, not actually interacting, so an elephant becomes like that. So, we saw that, right? So that's what it brings. So how do we overcome this? So that's what it is. So we saw if the teams are isolated, the top line shows the distributed teams working as separate units. They're not interacting with each other. They get what they need to do and just come out with their subjective understanding of what is required. If that happens, we saw what happens, right? The six blind men and elephant. So that is going to be the output. But then, as distributed development and scaling of Agile, now we use Scrum of Scrums. So where from each team there is a part of the Scrum member, like you have the Scrum of Scrums talking to each other, understanding on a continuous basis of what each other team is doing, their obstacles, and overcoming that. So that is the next stage where you have Scrum of Scrums. So, but is that enough? So, if you really look at Scrum, is just having Scrum of Scrum enough? No, it is not, right? So there has to be more interactions with the team. Just having a Scrum of Scrum doesn't solve the purpose of distribution. So there has to be more integration brought into the teams. So how do we achieve that? So what is the result? So now what we have is, if we have teams separately, each one doing their way, we have a bowl of fruits. So we have to look at how do we make that into a tasty salad. So how do we mix them, the culture as we discussed in the morning, and how do we make it into a tasty salad. So how do we do that? What are the various aspects? So based on our learnings as a company and working with multiple organizations, how to build integrated teams. That is, make salad from fruits. So these are, we talk about these in the DevOps scenario also. Talk about, see, there are 4 transformations which bring about integrated teams. One is the culture angle, which we described at length in the morning. So working as a unified culture. The other aspect is automation. Culture, automation, measurement, sharing, and communication. So those are the 4 aspects in which distributed teams have to transform themselves to bring integration and better working.
Here we talk about automation as technology automation, or
so we'll come to that. Basically tools and technology. So culture, we saw the culture aspect in the morning. So here I'll take an analogy and an example to just say how, So when in colony of penguins, okay, so if one penguin falls sick, what do the other penguins do? So in a colony of penguins, one penguin falls sick, what do the other penguins do? They don't care for it. The penguins, they peck on the sick penguin and kill it for the benefit of the other penguins, so that the other penguins don't get infected or things like that. But what do elephants do? So if one elephant falls sick in a herd of elephants. The elephants show a lot of care. They try to take the elephant along with them, or if they can't, and if the elephant is dying, the complete herd, doesn't go away, and they just stay there till even if it is dying, till it dies. They don't go away from that. So what is culture basically?
I think it depends on what kind of disease they have.
No, I'm just taking another. so it might be, yeah. So both might be good or bad. That's not the intent. But here, so just wanted to mention that from penguin culture, which is a limited kind of culture, so we have to move towards elephant culture. Okay, where they are supportive, each other. I mean, morning somebody, I think was it Avinash, was talking about supporting teams. And
business environment, what action we can move towards that culture?
Business environment. Yeah, totally. As a team, see, we have to move towards that. But definitely move away from the penguin culture.
That's I totally agree.
Maybe not totally as an elephant culture, but definitely move away from the penguin culture of pulling down people, not working as a team. So those have to be. So how do we achieve that in our experience? So I'll take two ways in which, with an example. For example, intra-team. Okay, so in our teams, what we have is, we have, it's a multifunctional team. We have architects, okay, so as an experiment, we have architects who provide, the whole architecture and the approach for development to the team, work with the team. And the team develops based on the architectural approach given by the architect and develop it. So what sometimes we have observed is, at least in the Indian context, the technical architects themselves wouldn't directly come hands-on to the code and build the whole framework and give it to the team. They say that we are architects, we give approach. Okay, that kind of approach. Many a time the team, as we also saw in the morning, if the teams are mature, if they have a lot of experience, that doesn't become a limitation. But in teams where, in Indian services industry, we have the pyramid, and many of the Indian companies also measure the managers' performance based on the rookie ratio. How many newbies can be taken into the team? So the 70% rookie ratio and all that. In such situations, okay, so if the technical architect separates himself and says that, no, I'm not directly doing getting to the stage of doing coding, but I'll give an approach. So we had a lot of such intra-team conflicts. Okay, but so that is where an agile coach becomes important. So talking to the architect and making him understand why there is a need for the architect to take the lead and really show the team culture and help the teams to deliver made a lot of difference in the teams.
What is that?
Yeah, so that inter-team operational level agreements. Okay, so I'm talking about the intra-team right now. So those kind of conflicts and forming a cohesive team is what helps further our work. And then effective reflection, retrospectives, we saw all that coming up. Ongoing learning, training, sharing knowledge, hackathons, all those for intra-team development. And inter-team, in many of our Indian services organizations, when we work with customers, we find that there are multiple vendors. The scenario is now, multiple vendors have become common. So when you have team A from one vendor, team B from another vendor, so we don't find that kinds of common goal and common approach. So there is always a competition. So how do we avoid that? So we are facing some situation like that. So which I will go into a little depth a little later. So if there is a good communication with the other vendor A and vendor B, and there is rotation for some time for the kind of work between the teams, so that helps a lot in building, breaking the bridges and uniting those teams. So multiple vendor teams, overlap of workers, good working relationships, rotation of team members, all this help in building those culture. So I'll go a little quicker here because we have covered that in the morning at length. Then comes the culture part is very well understood. So next comes automation. So everyone has heard about Sakichi Toyota, right? Toyota. So what did he do? So this
spinning
huh?
wheels. He automated the spinning wheels.
Yeah, so that is one, and really one thing that was actually even in the textile industry, I mean during the 19th century, 67, 1930. So basically the problem was when the power looms were running. So if there were when the power looms were running, if there was any defective piece of cloth, so that is if one line goes wrong, has not desired, or if there is a defect, and if the loom continues to run, there used to be a lot of wastage. So basically what used to be done was, so there used to be a manual person who inspects the bale that is going in the thing, and if there is a defective they used to pull a string which used to stop the machine. Okay, so that was, I mean, if the person, I mean, if manual any kind of manual work or manual intervention is always prone to mistakes, right? So sometimes if the person misses out to pull the string and stop the machine, so it used to lead to a lot of waste. So Toyota actually found out an automated way of stopping the machine whenever there is a defect using a camera and a sensor. Okay, so that helped reduce a lot of waste. Okay, so the same thing applied to our software development is the tool automation or continuous integration. So one side is our culture, is our management, is our the teams working together and all that. The other side is the technical excellence part of it. Looking at when the teams develop something, running unit test automation, then build running automated smoke tests and integration tests, and continuous deployment. Now even we can using Chef and other tools, you can even automate deployment. Right? Even deployment has become like code. So automation also has a major factor in bringing teams together and ensuring that the work goes seamlessly. So second part being automation. The third one, I'm just taking one example of measurement. Most of you would be familiar with lightning bolt, that is Usain Bolt. Okay. So what is very special or unique about it?
Fastest.
What's fastest?
Fastest sprinter, and he has broken his record, his own record many times. He was the fastest 100-meter sprinter. And how did he do that? How did he achieve that? How could he continuously improve? So what he used to do was, he also used to look at what he really understood is, while he's sprinting that 100-meter run, so he used to even measure the angle at the posture at which he runs, and look at what posture gives him the maximum speed. Okay, so he just measured that some 100, I'm not giving you the exact number, but some 100, and if he runs with a swing of 105 degrees, so he could run the best. So he kept on improving. He kept measuring and kept on improving. So that is where he could continuously improve. So that is the theme. So measurements is also important for teams to continuously evaluate themselves and continuously improve. So some of the common metrics that we use in distributed, like team velocity, burn down, burn up, cycle time and lead time. So many of us discussed that in our impediment age. Some of us, when Scrum of Scrums, if you keep track of the impediments and see that they are covered faster. So all of these measurements which we use also help us in forming better teams. And then last but not the least, communication is key for distributed teams to integrate and deliver quality products, right? And we discussed that in the morning. So John very well put that. So we have, if we look at the communication spectrum, so the email and wikis and all that, they are asynchronous communication far at the lower end. So if we look at richer communication, face-to-face is the best kind of communication, which we all know. But next to that is using virtual environments, like now we have video conference, we have teleconference. So using those high technology products, so it makes multiple teams work together well. Here is an example of 3 of our teams. We have an India team, we have a team in the UK and a team in Poland. And John was pointing to me that there has to be interacting lines with each of them. So that being missed out. So here, as I was mentioning, so this is a vendor in India, and we have another vendor in Poland. Okay, so the customer is in the UK. Okay, and we have situations.
Nope. Give it a second.
Is that what happens when your time's up?
Yep.
I think I'm all. Yeah.
You good? Yeah.
That's good, thank you. So, and on the next slide. So this is the scenario that I was talking about when we have multiple vendors. So we have, India team, is our team, and there is another vendor in Poland. So many a time what happens is both the teams work on a common repository or a common code. But when, so when it comes to, the end of sprint, there is dependency of this team on that team's commit or commit to the thing. So there was a lot of conflicts between these two teams as to, it was team A's responsibility, this was not committed rightly, so that broke the build. So on the 10th day of the sprint, so we cannot test the environment. The test environment is down because this team B, checked in something and the whole thing. So that kind of competition was there between the teams. So one thing that has helped us is have even though it is from a different vendor team, so interact with the team, try to have closer communications with the team. So if there are any dependencies, have a discussion, provide those dependencies to the other vendor, and also have some kind of rotation among the teams. Okay, so in the rotations and all that has helped us a lot in working as close teams in a multi-vendor scenario. And as I was mentioning, we as a company have invested with our customer and built a video conferencing team with HD TVs, Skype, we use WebEx, high quality conference phone, all that, which has helped to a large extent. The teams feel as though they are sitting next to each other in these video conferences, and that has built close interactions and communications. So just summarizing in the interest of time. So working as distributed teams is not new to Indian IT industry. We have been doing that for decades. So now the only change is that in an agile world, we have to deliver faster. The quicker cycles and the quicker deliveries is what is changed. Otherwise, the common aspects of culture, automation, measurement and communication, working on those areas and building a cohesive culture is what helps in scaling up as for distributed development teams. So that's my presentation. So thank you, and this is my email address, and please, it's my email address, and the same thing has been elaborated in an article, member article which was published in Scrum Alliance. So the link is.
It's in your website.
Yeah. So, thank you. Any questions?
So one of the questions which I have in mind is when we talk about the client is in UK and you have got two different vendors
Exactly.
which are in two different countries,
Countries.
that's going to be a huge nightmare.
Exactly. So that is what I was
So
mentioning.
how do you cut down the communication bar between the vendors because they are supposed to work together? Forget about the
See,
client.
the client has to bring together two vendors. Many a time, client does not take up that responsibility. So basically, where it helps is to work with the client or customer and have some kind of rotation. So that is what we work with.
So if I can ask you from a management point of view, whose responsibility is it? The clients or is the vendor?
It's a
Because at the end of the day, the responsibility lies with the vendor. A vendor has to deliver.
Yeah, but if it is of multiple vendors, right, and integrating those vendors is the responsibility of the client. If you go by the contract, many times if you go that way, it builds kind of unhealthy competition. So if we work the other way, and work with the teams, through the customer or the client, have a kind of rotation, so that brings a lot of advantage, things which help the teams. That's what we have found in our experience.
This is what exactly we practice, but not in Agile, but through waterfall. So what we do, we keep developing tools, vendor, and testing to a vendor. And we expect them to fight, so that at the end of the day we get a good product.
Yeah, but if, that might work in that, scenario where, testing is given to one vendor and development to another. But if development, if two vendors are developing on a common code, then it becomes very important that both the teams work together in order to develop code. Yeah, so in our scenario, it is development. Both the teams are responsible for development. And as the end in the product, what each of the team develop has to integrate to work. So that is where a lot of interaction.
I often find that the easy option is to give tests to one vendor, development to another. But to scale Scrum successfully, you have to really go for vertical slices because it's not sustainable to do what you suggested. You lose the collaboration straight away from the start. That's a whole different challenge and conversation to what I
Because what we experience is that many of the time there is an unhealthy competition and we get benefit out of it. Because the testers trying to get as much as defect they can and the development trying to fix it up as fast as they can. So then they let them fight and getting benefit. As a client,
think it works to a certain level, but not. You wouldn't create a high-performing team of just developers and just testers.
well, I don't need them at all because at the end of the day, they're for a certain task. As long as they do it, then in this bundle, it's again.
But you're not doing Scrum at that point, are you?
That's exactly
you're not doing Agile because you haven't got one team doing everything.
Yeah, so when you work on a waterfall model, that works.
Oh yeah.
In Agile,
Waterfall, it doesn't.
in Agile, it's going to be
In
tough.
Agile, it doesn't work, and I think more of the kind of situation as you were saying that separate team does development. So that was more the traditional. In Agile teams, it's common that the same teams develop. Anybody?
So most of the service-based companies follow this chosen process.
Sorry?
Bell curve, right?
Bell curve. Yeah.
Performance assessment. So related with that, now we are talking about moving from your planting to how do you get is a challenge changing that culture? And how do you think you can address that?
See, one thing, if you're talking about a bell curve, see, bell curve is about competence, technical competence. What we're talking is about attitude. They are two different things, right? With right attitude, see, even when organizations have,
Oh, the bell.
what I believe is people look at attitude more than the skill, right? If you have a good attitude, anyone having a good attitude can learn any technology and excel over a period of time. But if attitude is wrong, then nothing can work, right? So similar manner, what I meant by penguin culture is we have to give, we have to work more as a team and support each other than pecking and pulling legs or showing somebody down in a meeting. That doesn't help. Even if a person highly skilled is doing that, would you think it would lead to pulling down?
But I'll take that one. I'll take that one. When somebody's marketing yourself, then again we have to go back to the penguin culture to keep faking it, right? Because he's the weed in our cultivation, right? It's not the culture that Agile trained teams will thrive in.
But that is a challenge.
It is a challenge. Then you have to let the teams figure it out. Then you have to let a coach help the teams figure it out themselves.
And as the company using multiple vendors, you've got to encourage the right behaviour, right?
Yeah.
So you're not encouraging who's delivering the highest velocity. You're encouraging who's helping who the most.
Right, but when it's a team, if the team markets themselves, then it's fine. I think it's agreeable to an extent, but if there's a single guy in the team marketing himself, could be a scrum master, then it's time to look for a change. I think the penguin approach works there more than the elephant approach. Right?
For short term.
John had a PPT which says who is the good team player. Agile has coined one formula. A good team player equals his identity less than team's identity.
And we had that today morning, right? I think it was in your slide. It was such a beautiful statement. I still remember. I don't remember who was the guy.
He's saying about the statement.
John's presentation.
John's presentation. There was a guy with a black background. There was some quotes written. Such an awesome statement.
I'm going to use
that in many of the
Please do.
And to answer specifically to your question, many of the organizations are moving away from the welcome practice in India. There are many organizations moving.
A player who makes the team great is more valuable than a great player.
Absolutely.
That's the powerful.
From Agile point of view, it's right.
No, it's in any point of view. It's right from human point of view.
I think the guy's a basketball coach or something like that. No, I think it's baseball.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
The name